Welcome to this Andor finale breakdown and season review. The show has been a breath of fresh air as a Star Wars fan, and it's felt like a good hideaway from the insane discourse that almost every show and movie has had this year, be it about wokeness, cameos, lack of cameos, or whatever. Because no one's watching the show, I've been able to kind of watch it in peace and really appreciate just how good it is. While Andor might have been quite low on my list of Star Wars characters to have a deep dive 2-season show about, I'm really wanting that Thrawn show. I always knew it was going to be stunning and great, as well. Not only has Tony Gilroy become very experienced, he also co-wrote the best Disney Star Wars movie, Rogue One, and real sets were being used. I think there's minimal CGI. Obviously there's going to be a few CGI here and there, but admittedly it did start slow, turning people off. But this is a delayed gratification, long-term storytelling done really well. Every single plot thread comes together here, neatly focusing on the one man, Cassian Andor, a man thrust into rebellion when the foot of the Empire is put to his throat. He's forced to run, but also help the rebellion. Both sides are vying to either lock him up or use them for his own gain and then chuck him away. It came to a point he can no longer ignore the glowing threat of the Imperials. It's just like Marva said, they're in a status quo for so long and they can't stand by anymore. His mother's funeral is the epicenter of this episode and is the thing that brings all of our factions together here. We have Daedra coming to observe the funeral and hopefully try and spring a trap on him. Vel, Sintra and Luthen have arrived to take out Andor, although Sintra was already there as well. And they want to do this so that rebellion isn't at risk of being exposed. Cyril and Trevor from EastEnders are also making their way to the planet. The entire main area of Ferrix is a powder keg waiting to go off, with each of our storylines converging and are incredibly tense, except Mon Mothma, but we'll get to her at the end of the video there. Andor has landed on the planet when he really shouldn't be, but the words of Nemik's manifesto ring through to his core. He makes it his aim to rescue Bix, but by the end ends up being taken in by the rebellion. Well, I assume he does fully there. So much happens in this episode as Andor makes his return to Ferrix, but is grasped on later by a fellow Ferrixite. While this is happening, one of the people affected by the Imperial's presence builds a bomb which they use later to escalate the already brewing riot. Andor manages to slowly work his way around town despite being the #1 most wanted of the Empire, and slowly works his way to the hotel as the procession takes place and starts a bit earlier, putting the Imperials off guard. He feels the brick of his father Clem, and we get a touching moment of him remembering being taught to make do, mend and recycle parts. It reminded me of The Force Awakens where Rey is cleaning stuff up to survive, but I guess I did just watch that recently, so it's quite fresh in my head. I love the tension in this episode, as funny enough, yet again Andor is right under the nose of the Empire, just as he was in jail, but they are looking the wrong way. Again, Daedra is adamant that she wants to take prisoners during all of this and keep Andor alive. However, this did not happen with Krieger, as his team was massacred on their assault at Spellhouse, much to her anger. However, the head of the ISB quite succinctly points out that they needed to give the Emperor a win. It isn't about getting info etc. all the time, it's all about pleasing the evil Emperor and getting the taste of Eldani out of his mouth and getting him off their backs. I half expect a mission accomplished over the deck of a Star Destroyer very soon, but everyone is looking for the same man. Sintra is working her way to take down the ISB spy, which she does later, and Marva's words spark an uprising. She speaks to the power of community, and in their grief they are furious at the Empire and want to get rid of the darkness of this looming threat. Also liked seeing Luthen react to this as he realises Andor's mother was based as heck and is watching people rise up. Funny enough, it's not until the Empire try to suppress the speech that it kicks off with the fighting and the pipe bomb is thrown. All hell breaks loose, but luckily our boy Andor is able to break into the hotel and get Brix and extract her out. Bix even. Meanwhile, Daedra runs into Cyril after he saved her, and I'm not a fan of this, and it seems played out, and the creepy shipping that I've seen online gives me the ick. It's interesting that she's so shook by what happened, as she was so close to being killed. It shows how far removed she is from the true nitty-gritty and the effects that her work and the Empire has, and I'm happy if I never see Cyril again. Bix is able to escape with friends of Andor with the pipe bomb guy, and Andor has to go back. He's got to do something first. He knows Luthen came here to kill him while Vel and Cintra are still out there with Cintra hurt. Maybe if I had an issue with this episode, it would be that everyone's kind of left in the air somewhat. There's not really too much closure here, but the show has treated the viewer with intelligence and we kind of get what's going on here. Andor is now going to be with the Resistance. Maybe Luthen softened a little bit here, as the old Luthen would have just shot him, but the words of Marva have really rung true with him. Meanwhile, Mothma's husband has been gambling, which on the surface is a major problem. However, we later saw how the driver, who we know is an ISB spy, fed this back to the ISB, who mentioned their accounting problems, and this gambling could be the cause of that. Now, there's two situations I can see here. I can see Mothma getting rid of her husband by working him and getting him arrested for this gambling and accounting and embezzling to fund his habit, or possibly he turns witness and starts spying on his wife. Either way, it's difficult times ahead for her as her daughter is introduced to be married. In the post-credit scene, we finally learn what those people were working on Narkina 5, which was, yes, the Death Star. More specifically, it was like the laser bit of it, the eye of the Death Star. There's probably a better name for it. It's so poetic that he worked on the weapon that ended up killing him. But he did manage to get those plans out and into the hands of the rebellion, so I guess there is that. But there's a lot more to go on here. We have, I think it's 5 years before Rogue One, so we've got his whole rebellion career to go yet, and I'm along for the ride. Overall, a spellbinding season, and I'm excited to see more.